Hello, hello, we're back for another Blitz game, climbing the rating ladder. Starting off here at 1100, see if we can push to 1200 with these ones. So let's see what our opponent does. We've got d4, so let's respond to this with e6. It's a flexible one as it allows us to transpose into either the Dutch or the French, the Dutch with f5, as we can see here, or the French with d5. But yeah, here we're just going to keep up the development, get our king nice and safe, then possibly fianchetto our square bishop. Right, so our opponent's immediately striking in the centre. This feels a bit early, but nothing wrong with it. We'll x-ray some defence here so that after captures we could have moved our pieces out of the way. But this is all fine. We're currently hitting the pawn on b2, which is why our opponent had to stop and take some time to defend that. I want to play e5. This does let him push with a discovery, but recapture isn't actually something I'm worried about because we could have always re-picked up that pawn after a6. And now actually we've got a pretty solid structure here in the center, and it's going to be quite hard for white to try and break this down. So immediately striking at it with e4, but this isn't an issue for us. And as I say, we've got this nice center and our pieces are lovely developed. So I think we can continue building up pressure here. Play bishop g4, just pinning this knight with potentially some threats e4 in the future. Can't play that at the moment, so I think we'll build up the pressure. Question is, do we want to allow him to take on c5? And I'm not worried about that. So we'll double our pawns, but it'll give us an open b file to attack along with our rook. And this one we definitely weren't concerned about, because now we've got 3 attackers and only 1 defender against the bishop here. And even if he brings this bishop back, we're still going to be able to break through. And as well, we can add another attacker with e4. So let's do that right away. So yeah, we've now got 4 pieces attacking this one, and we're going to cleanly win a piece. Here, happy to just allow some trades, as yet that would have messed up white's pawn structure. So I'm just going to close the net around white's king and then chuck a check on g6, which should be devastating. I think he has to play queen f8, queen f1 here, sorry, to cover the f2 square, but he's missed our idea here of rook g6 check, only move king h1, and queen e2 checkmate. Cool, so that was a nice, quick, fast game. Relatively simple, self-explanatory there. So let's jump into another one, see if we can push for 1200. So our opponent is rated around 1150, and get a Sicilian here. I'm going to try a wing gambit. So this is one which I don't imagine our opponent had seen very often, and we've immediately got a super strong center here. We could continue with a3 and then after takes play something like c3 to support it, but there's no need. You can see here our opponent has immediately fallen for a tactic where his loose bishop on g4 is susceptible to us taking on f7 and then discovering the attack on the king and the attack on the bishop. So already here we can see we've got a totally crushing position. Black has no castling rights, and there's some massive weaknesses here on the king side. So we're going to try and exploit that immediately by bringing our queen in and hopefully landing either a queen or knight on f7. So opponent is forcing us into moving the knight. I think this does look quite good for us though, because at the very least, say if a queen goes to trade, we can swap that one off, grab that, and actually h6 gives us an escape square because the g6 square is no longer covered. Also, we can consider if the queen moves away from the defense of d6, potentially taking on this one, in which case yeah, it doesn't quite work here. It would have been a nice idea where we would have take and then queen to c8 checkmate. But as I mentioned, in this one, we can just trade the queens off and take the free material of the rook on h8. So we're now up a full rook. They can capture this pawn on e4 if they want, but I think we're just going to castle. Could also get our knight out first. I think, yeah, whilst we still got time and whilst this move is available to us, let's just play knight g6. And if we really want to, after king f7, we can just bail out and take that bishop on f8, netting positive material. Cool, we're just castling here. Going to bring a rook to the open file. And here, I don't want this bishop getting active. So I'm going to take that one and x-ray the king on this file. Right, I'm just going to build up some pressure here. Bringing pieces out. I'm threatening to trade on e4. But again, we can see we're not just up on material, but positionally dominant here, as black has this backwards e6 pawn, which is held back by a pawn on d4. So here, move like this is creating double defense of it, but lining the king up to some nasty discoveries. Okay, so I'm just going to create some lift around my king. And here, just drop back one, because we can break down these pawns in a moment. One thing to be aware of is that knight's putting some pressure here, so a move like f3 would be a mistake. So instead we can break it open this way. Can also just consider sacrificing the exchange. Potentially I was going to say after a move like g4, that's what we're going to do, just to simplify things and give us an inroad into the position. Potentially h5, but now we just drop our rook back to e5 and we're forking these two. So game shouldn't last much longer. And let's see, we're going to pick this pawn up, march this one. We don't even need to worry about taking on g4 immediately, as instead it's going to be this passed pawn which should win the game. So actually we can push to h6 and then tuck behind. Okay. Trying to think what's the best way of going about this. I think this is fine. Just we can let him take this pawn, but we're going to get rid of black's final remaining pawns. And yeah, eliminate any counterplay. If the king comes forwards, we've simply got this one forking the king and rook, forcing the trade. And now black's king is tied down to making sure that this pawn doesn't run away. Yeah. So all we're going to do is just march our king up to the support of this pawn. We don't have to worry about these guys, as they're held back nicely by our pawns. And if the king ever tries to run this way, then the pawn is going to be breaking away. Okay, and there we are. We're supporting the pawn's push now. And we haven't got to worry about what he's doing over there, because we know we're going to be a lot faster. And come in with check. Take this one with check. Keep up the checks. You can never be stalemated if we're always checking him. And it should be over very shortly. One more. There we go. Right, so that's taken us up to 1158. We'll see if we can get one more in to try and push for 1200. So here, let's go for e5. And here, this is one which I don't play myself. So we're just going to be going off of principles, instincts, and good moves. So we capture towards the center here. theory might be to recapture the other way, allowing the queen trade, but I'm happy with keeping the queens on, as I think I should be able to then use the force of that against my opponent. Here I'm just playing sensible move, opening up my rook into the center. Maybe play a move like h6 now, just as this comes with tempo on the bishop on g5. e6 seems fine, taking this loose bishop, and we can always recapture with the rook if we want to. Okay, so let's have a look here. So what's going through my head at the moment is I want to move my queen, but he's got this annoying pin going on at the moment. So move as well, like d5 is just going to be met by e5, and then after g5 things are getting a bit messy. So let's have a think how we want to do this. I think we'll try a little bit of repositioning. First off, we'll hit this pawn for free along the open file. Then we can think about dropping our bishop back, maybe getting our queen up here to support this way, breaking the pin but keeping in contact with the knight. Okay, so this seems to slightly destabilize the knight here. So what I'm going to do is, continue with our plan of repositioning these pieces around. Okay, and we'll just drop back here to keep the rooks in contact with each other, defend this pawn on c6. Move like this one seems like it could be coming. After takes, we've always got queen check getting out of the way. He then can block the bishop, but okay, I think this was definitely a mistake from our opponent. This allows us to get out of the pin with a tempo on the knight on c3. And if, say, the knight moves, there's only two defenders of the pawn here, so we can actually take this one. Again, we need to be slightly aware of a move like knight g3, whereupon then there'll be three attackers on our piece and only two defenders. But again, we've got this move queen c5 check, which looks actually pretty devastating. At the very least, it's quite an annoying one for white, but at most, as we can see here, he's walked into the fork of the king and queen. And we get resignation. So that takes us to one game away from 1200. So we'll end the video there and rejoin in another one, see if we can push that final hurdle to get to 1200. Thanks. See you in the next one.